how do you create trust and credibility with your strategy communication with internal stakeholders, especially when there's cynicism, past baggage of poor implementation? And just to add a little bit to that, I suspect everybody on this call has been part of a process, an air quotes, a strategic planning process that just didn't go right. It was a big fat waste of time. The plan never got done. And the organization is just a little bit like, yeah, we're never doing that again. And so what do we do about that when you've entered into the organization maybe, or you've been brought into the organization, or you're trying to restart it and kind of regain that trust and credibility? So Jeff, would you like to kick us off in your words of wisdom?
I would love to kick us off on this one, because when I saw this question, it strikes a chord with me, because I've worked with organizations where leadership spends a lot of good quality time designing strategy, gaining some inputs, and the time comes to communicate and roll out that strategy to the team. And then there's blowback, there's resistance, they don't want to adopt it. And from an attitudinal and behavioral kind of perspective, it's like, why did that happen? And often the ground and where that originates is past historical experiences from staff have a level of distrust. I don't believe it. Show it to me, prove it to me. And that's when great strategy and the adoption of it can start to fall apart. And so, when I've worked with leadership teams, it is a thing. And it really originates with, what can we do better and differently? Start with, it is okay to be transparent and honest. Recognize in all of our efforts as an organization and as it relates to strategy, we've had successes and we've had failures. Call out the failures. I think developing, fostering trust and credibility starts with honesty, transparency, and openness to what has worked for us and what hasn't worked for us, and what are we going to do differently and better as a company or as an organization to start to address it. Over time, that will start to foster trust and credibility and prove it. I love this say-do ratio. If you're going to say it, do it. And a lot of times leadership has this very low caliber of the say-do ratio. They say it, but they don't do it. Follow up to the promises and the commitments that we make when we communicate our strategy. Reinforce it, come back to it, show how we're making progress. In time, that will absolutely have impact on trust and credibility in the rollout of communication. I want to hear from other people, because this has to strike a chord with a lot of people. So I think we got some things. Yeah. Let's hear this. What do we think from this group?
Any hand raises? Anybody that's done something in a particularly, I don't know, impactful way that's made a difference in this area? Matthew, go for it.
Yeah, let's hear it from you, Matthew.
Yeah, this is in no small part just reinforcing something that Jeff said. Everybody has a set of experiences which help them form their beliefs about what's going to happen. And then that influences what actions they take, which I'm 90% sure I first heard about from a video from you, Erica.
Possibly.
Whenever something's gone awry in the past, or even if it hasn't gone awry and just there's, the culture of the organization, there's so much to the culture of an organization, you don't know all of the variables. It's too complex of a system. So it's a combination of ensuring that people's experiences prove out what it is you're trying to accomplish, so that their behaviors follow suit. And a little bit of, what's your hypothesis? What's your experiment? Figure out what works, and cycle through certain methods until the people involved are on board. They're interested and engaged, and it's not about leading them to it. It's about them wanting to go to it.
I think that's true. I'm just going to add on a thought on this too, and then we'll see if anybody else wants to jump in. I also think super important is I do think quick wins matter. I really do. I do think demonstrating, getting to orchestrating quick wins is really super helpful. And then the other thing I think that really matters, and this is something that is an edict in our organization, which is if the CEO is not your most ardent sponsor, forget about it. So I think that executive level, and I don't just mean executive sponsorship, I mean actually like CEO sponsorship. So you might be that CEO, fantastic. But if it's not you, then that, you know, whomever that is, your top level executive has got to be the person that is your strongest and ardent supporter and champion. So I'm going to move on unless there's any other additions on this. Again, I think, you know, change is hard. I think we're all really well aware of this, but I think kind of as Jeff just mentioned, maybe in a wrap up and a couple of key takeaways is, I think, you know, doing what we say we're going to do and follow up is huge. And so that's something that's somewhere else on this board as well, is we tend to take on too much with strategic planning processes. And so the actual, you know, bite-size approach and really showing legitimate implementation goes a long way. Quick wins goes a long way. Executive sponsorship goes a long way.